Some of you might be surprised to learn that the United States Air Force has a very accomplished insurgent in its ranks. And others might be curious to find out that this insurgent comes from a faraway Muslim nation with an oil-rich desert landscape and a very violent past of anti-colonial conflicts. His group coordinated attacks, promoted violent ideologies, and worked to strain and fatigue his uniformed foes. To inflict moral and physical punishment on the Western European forces who actively and often ruthlessly sought to find and annihilate him and his cohorts. He spent years mastering his craft and would become a very dangerous and lethal adversary, demanding some radical solutions to the threat he presented, as the insurgency he served spent years coordinating foreign assistance and local resources to perfect their deadly arts as well as their underground logistics. Yes, it's true, the insurgent is in our ranks today, working largely undetected by your or the public's consciousness. But I don't really want you to worry about this in the slightest, because we also have in our ranks an accomplished counterinsurgent. We spent years learning and working to defeat this insurgency. He was remarkably familiar with the local culture, language, and with his foes on a personal level. I'd like just to repeat that. Culture, language, and familiarity with his foes at a personal level. He knew how to think like his adversary and how to anticipate their needs and their moves. And ultimately, his work contributed to the counterinsurgency's efforts' ability to defeat the insurgents in the field. It might make you feel a bit more assured to know how accomplished this counterinsurgent is, and as I indicated, works for the Air Force, and that he is actively today assisting us and our joint partners in training and developing a new generation of warriors able to contend with efforts of like-minded insurgents. Many of you might now be wondering who these two people are. An experienced insurgent and an able counterinsurgent, who are both in the nation's Air Force. And it might even surprise you to learn that I'm not blowing smoke here this morning. It's true. This is a real deal. But would it surprise you a bit more to learn that these two figures are in fact the same person? His name is Remy Maudwit, and he is the editor of the Air and Space Power Journal, French version, at the Air Force Research Institute, and also chair of the U.S. Marine University Guy P. Weiser Pratt French Institute. And some of you may have heard him speak as he lectures regularly at the Air University, the Joint Special Operations University, the Marine Corps War College, and in presentations for Navy SEALs, among others, who are in COIN counterinsurgency training. Maudwit spent 5 years in an insurgency, guerrilla and terrorism leadership positions with the FLN during the French-Algerian War from 1954 to 1959. He was a member of a small portion of Algerian nationalist society that was educated and reform-minded, resolved with other democratic FLN leaders to use violent guerrilla methods in an effort to convince the French to grant them autonomous rule in an independent and democratic Algerian republic closely aligned with France. He lived the daily existence of an insurgent working to arm, supply, indoctrinate, and coordinate fighters and operations against the French. And this was a tough existence, to be sure. After 5 years of this difficult life, however, things got much worse for Maudouin. An extremist element of the FLN took over, seeking not a free republic in Algeria, but an extremist dictatorship with a monopoly on power completely separate from France. These extremists took over violently, putting the ranks of the FLN and its moderate democratic elements through torture and executions. Maudouin was arrested and viciously tortured for 17 days before he managed to escape, and soon defected to the French side, later earning a commission upon his graduation from the Cherchell Officer School. When he served in Algeria for 2 years in special operations as a French counter-insurgency commando, where he took the fight to the same extremists who had tortured him and killed so many of his FLN compatriots. I think his remarkable story serves to provide us with many relevant lessons on insurgency in general and the irregular adversaries that we face today. As Maudouin points out, drawing lessons from the conduct of operations in the Algerian insurgency provides such a model in terms of geography and topography, social makeup, open borders, and a technologically advanced army fighting militarily inferior forces with terrorism and guerrilla tactics. And I think his experience provides us some excellent enduring lessons on the value of air power in irregular conflict. Are we paying attention today to those lessons, together with lessons learned from our experiences in the current fight? But the overwhelming theme of this remarkable, the relevance of air power that Maudouin spoke of in irregular warfare, and more specifically the counterinsurgency effort. And the French experience, I think, serves as a lens through which we can view some of these important lessons. As Maudouin is helping us and our joint brothers and sisters to better understand how to effectively and efficiently